you have high inequality within a capitalist society, which leads to underconsumption. Therefore, you have high incentives for the capitalist elites to go elsewhere to find cheap labor, cheap resources, and to get new markets. And of course, these capitalist states are in conflict with one another to access all of these things, and that is the explanation for the First World War.
Trade follows the flag, and then different flags basically fight it out.
And you make a really great point in the book, which is, look, people watching or listening might disagree with that, but what's really critical is that neoclassical economics has no account for why something like the First World War happens.
No.
It's just bad people do stupid things. No. And the Hobson-Lenin-Luxemburg theory and Schumpeter and Polanyi makes much more sense.
For me, it is absolutely striking that economics, which is accused generally, rightly, of being intellectually imperialist. In other words, economics explains everything: how many kids you have, what you like to eat, whether you exercise, like everything, like your preferences. It explains everything. So because it has this imperialistic tendency to go into sociology, to go into any social science. And there is this incredibly important event which takes place, the World War I, which takes place in the midst of the largest globalization that has ever existed in history up to that moment, and which has not been recaptured until about year 2000. So this event happens. So why wouldn't you have economistic theory why this event has happened? But no, there is no theory. It just happens, okay, well, there is a guy who assassinated another guy in Sarajevo. That's the theory. Well, that's ridiculous. And the reason why they don't have a theory, because the only reasonable theory is precisely the one that we just mentioned. It's very hard to explain why in the peak of globalization you would have the countries that were clearly politically opposed to each other, where we believed that with globalization and mutual trade, the interests would be so strong, as was actually Norman Angel's argument, that the interests would be so strong that we would never go to war. Because we know that the war would be really bad for me and you. And it actually did happen. It was bad for me and you. And we knew that, and we still went to war.
It was Europe committing suicide, effectively.
It was a suicide. And actually, they all knew that this would happen.